when the instruction is executed in the EX stage of the pipelining, if the instruction is a floating point instruction, if floating point operation is done, then it is not completed within a normal pipeline clock cycle. It takes more time. Okay. So if the execution stage is taking more time, that means it will require the its clock cycle time duration should be moved. And I have already told you that if you all the stages of the pipelining, they are given the same amount of time. Okay, so there is a clock cycle used, and clock cycle has a clock period. Okay, clock period means the time which the clock cycle is taking. That's the clock period. Okay, so all these stages they are using one clock cycle, and I told you that the clock cycle time is same for all the stages, like IF stage, ID stage, EX stage, MEM stage, and W stage. All the stages they are using the same amount of time, and I am saying here in arithmetic pipeline, I'm saying that in case of floating point operation, in the EX stage, in the EX stage of floating point operation, it cannot be completed in the same clock cycle time as the normal instructions. It takes more time. Now in this case, what to do? The EX stage, in case of floating point operation, it cannot be completed within one clock cycle. So what to do? It cannot be completed within one clock cycle time or one clock period time. It cannot be completed. It takes more time. Okay. So what to do? You have, you can increase the clock cycle time. I mean, you can give the bigger clock cycle to this EX stage in case of floating point operation. This is one solution. But in this case, in this solution, if you are giving bigger clock cycle to the EX stage of floating point operation, then you have to also give the same clock period clock cycle to all the stages. Because I told you that all the stages of pipelining, they are given same amount of time. Okay. So if you are giving the same clock period time to all the stages, then the duration of the execution will be more. It will take more time. Okay. And if you just increase the EX stage time period, then other stages after that they will have to wait for that. So problems are there. Okay. So to solve this problem, this arithmetic pipeline technique can be used. Okay. So students, are you getting the problem or not? You understand the problem in case of an instruction pipeline? समझ में आ रहा है ना? प्रॉब्लम समझ में आ रहा है ना स्टूडेंट?
Yes.
सो इसको कैसे सॉल्व करें? मैंने दो सोल्यूशन बताया. पहला सोल्यूशन ये है कि हम EX स्टेज में जो क्लॉक साइकिल का जो टाइम ड्यूरेशन हम दे रहे थे उसको ज़्यादा कर दें, खाली उसी को ज़्यादा करें और किसी को नहीं देना है. तो इसमें क्या होगा कि जो उसके बाद वाला EX स्टेज के बाद वाला जो स्टेज है उसको वेट करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि इसको ज़्यादा टाइम लग रहा है. ठीक है ना? और अगर सबको ज़्यादा टाइम दोगे, सबका जो जितने स्टेजेस हैं सबको अगर उतना ही टाइम दोगे, तो टोटल ड्यूरेशन ज़्यादा हो जाएगा for completing the instruction. Okay. So to solve that, we can use this technique, arithmetic pipelining. And in arithmetic pipelining, the EX stage is divided into number of sub-stages. Okay. In the normal pipelining, in a RISC processor, we use 5 stages. Okay. IF, ID, EX, MEM, and WB. These 5 stages are used. Okay. But I am saying here in case of arithmetic pipelining, in this technique, the EX stage is again divided into sub stages. Okay, to match the time of all other stages. Okay, I told you that the EX stage is it requires more time. Okay, suppose it requires more time, which is equal to the 3 times the time of other stages. Okay, that means suppose the all the stages in a instruction pipeline, they are taking t amount of time. Okay, but the EX stage for the for floating point operation, it is taking 3t amount of time. Okay, then here in case of arithmetic pipeline, we can divide the EX stage into 3 sub stages, and each sub stage will use the same t amount of time. Okay. Now if you're dividing the EX stage into 3 substages, the total number of stages is increased now. Earlier we had 5, now we increase 2 more. Okay. So now it becomes total how much? Total 7 number of stages. Okay. So this way, this arithmetic pipelining works. We actually divide the EX stage into more number of substages. Okay. So you can see here in this diagram, IF stage you can see here. Okay, this is the example of a MIPS R4000 processor. Okay, it uses, this processor uses arithmetic pipelining, right? So here you can see the stages. IF stage is here, then ID stage. Okay, and then this EX stage you can see for different instructions. The EX stage is divided into sub stages. You can see here. For integer operation, you can see integer unit is there. Only one stage it is there. Okay. For floating point or multiplication operations, you can see this EX stage is divided into how many number of sub stages. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 number of sub stages are there. Okay. Then in case of floating point adder, you see it is divided into 4 sub stages. Okay, A1, A2, A3, and A4. And then floating point division or integer division, you can see how many number of substages this EX stage is divided. Okay, so this is how the EX stage is divided for different operations in case of the arithmetic pipeline. And the other stages like MEM and WB, they are as they are. Okay, they are not changed. The IF stage, ID stage, MEM stage, WB stage, they are not changed. Okay, but this EX stage is divided into sub stages for different operations. So this is how the arithmetic pipelining works. And here in case of arithmetic pipelining, the arithmetic operation is divided into sub operations, okay, into different segments. And then that is applied here in the EX stage. Okay. Any question? Okay, since there is no question, I'm moving to the next slide. Okay, the next is pipelining hazards. So this hazard, this actually prevents the instruction in the pipelining to execute in its normal clock cycle. Okay, so there are some situations uh, where the instruction cannot execute in its designated clock cycle. For example, the instruction may require some data which need to be generated by the previous instruction, but the previous instruction is still in the pipelining. Okay, or two or more instructions may require the same hardware component to complete their execution. Okay, so the conflict is there. If two or more instructions they want to use the same hardware at the same time, then there is conflict. So who will use the hardware? That's the problem. Okay, then another one is there is the other problem occurs during the branch instruction execution. Okay, so these are different scenarios of hazards. So hazard is a situation where the instruction cannot execute in its designated clock cycle. And there are three types of hazards. First hazard is your structural hazard, second hazard is data hazard, and third hazard is control hazard. This structural hazard, this occurs when two or more instructions they want to use the same hardware. Okay, so which hardware, which instruction will be allocated the hardware, which will use the hardware? There is a problem. Okay, so this is a structural hazard. Okay, the next is data hazard. In this case, the instruction depends on the previous instruction. Okay, data, and that previous instruction is still in the pipeline. Okay, so unless the previous instruction generates the output, the current instruction cannot proceed. So this is data hazard. Okay, and control hazard is caused in the branch instruction, and we will discuss in more detail about this control hazard later. Okay, so the first hazard, structural hazard, as I told you, that it is caused whenever two or more instructions they want to use the same hardware component at the same time, then this hazard occurs. So and if this hazard occurs, then we have to stop the pipeline. I mean, the instruction will not execute. We have to stop the execution of the instruction. Okay, and that is known as pipeline bubble. So let us see this. So you can see here These are the instructions. The first instruction is load instruction, and this is second instruction, third instruction, fourth instruction, and five instruction. So these are the instructions, and these are the clock cycle numbers. You can see clock cycle number 1, clock cycle 2, clock cycle 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, and in clock cycle number 1, you can see this load instructions fetch operation is done. In clock cycle number 2, load instruction id stage is done, and we know that in the id stage register is used. Okay, so here in this diagram the components are shown, the hardware components are shown in different stages of different instructions. So you can see here in the clock cycle number 4, this load instruction using data memory, because in the clock cycle number 4 it is doing its MEM operation. Okay, we know that the fourth stage is the MEM stage, and the instruction has to perform this MEM operation. Okay, in the clock cycle number 4. Okay, now at this clock cycle number 4, you can see the instruction 3, this one, this is doing its IF operation. Okay, so IF means instruction fetch operation, and in the instruction fetch stage, what happens, the instruction is fetched from the memory based on the program counter value. So here in this case, you see instruction is fetched from the memory, and here data is written into the memory. So in these both instructions, both of these instructions, they are using the memory. Okay. Now the problem is if there is only one port. Okay, if the memory has only one port, then problem will arise. I mean, which instruction will access the memory? So there is conflict. So this is known as structural hazard. Okay. So if there is only one memory port and these two instructions at the same clock cycle, you can see at the clock cycle number 4, this load instruction requires to access the memory, and this instruction 3 also requires to access the memory. Okay, so these two want to access memory, and there is only one port, one memory port. So this is known as structural hazard. Okay, so any question? Okay, since there is no question, I'm moving to the next slide. So next is data hazard, and this data hazard is caused because of the data dependency. So one instruction depends on the data from the prior instruction which is in the pipelining. Okay, so unless the prior instruction generates the result, okay, the current instruction cannot proceed further. And this is actually caused because in pipelining we actually overlap the instructions in execution in different stages. So because of this parallel processing, this occurs. So this actually results in the different order of the accessing of the operands. Okay, so this is known as your data hazard. Okay, so let us see the example here in this diagram. So you can see here these are the different instructions. So the first instruction is add R1, R2, R3. Second instruction is sub R4, R1, R3, and this third instruction AND operation is done, and R6, R1, and R7. Okay, and then next is our instruction, then XOR instruction, and these are the clock cycle numbers. You can see clock cycle number 1, 2, 3 up to 9 number clock cycles are shown here. Okay, and here different phases with the hardware components used by the different instructions are shown here. Okay, uh, now here I will show you the data hazard on the register R1. Okay, so first of all, tell me what's the meaning of this instruction add R1, R2, R3. Tell me what's the
Add
meaning
the
of this
value of
instruction.
R1, R2 and keep in R3.
Okay, so actually the destination um, can be R3 or it can also be R1. Okay, it depends on how you are writing. Okay, so in some books destination is this R3. Okay, and in some books the destination is R1. Okay, so you can use either or. You can either use this as destination and these two as source, or you can use this as destination and these two as source operands. Okay, so what you told, you assumed this one as the destination operand. Okay, but I will use here this one as destination, R1 as the destination I will use. Okay, so whatever you use, you should write the register transfer notation. So meaning of this instruction is this here I am using. Okay, so what you told, you can also use that, but here I am using this one. Okay, this add R1, R2, R3 means here I am adding, I mean this R2 and R3 are added, and the result is stored in this R1 register, right? So I am using this convention here, and this is the RTN here. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So now in all these instructions I am using the same convention. So the first register is the destination, and the right hand side last registers are the source registers. Okay, so here in the first instruction, R1 is the destination register, R2 R3 as the source registers, and the second instruction, this one sub, R4 is the destination register, R1 and R3 are the source registers. Similarly in the third instruction, R6 is the destination register, and R1 R7 are the source registers. Okay, and similarly these two instructions are there. Okay, now in the clock cycle number 1, if instruction, this first instructions if stage is done, if operation is performed here. Okay, in the clock cycle number 1. In clock cycle number 2, this instruction, first instructions ID operation is done. Okay, and in ID what happens, tell me students, in the ID stage what happens?
Sir, decoding instructions.
In ID what happens, can you tell me?
Operands are also fetched from the register.
Yes,
Decode.
yes. In the ID stage, the instruction is decoded, and the operands are read from the registers. Operands are read from the register. Remember this. In the ID stage, instruction is decoded, and the operands are read from the registers. So this is register operation is done here. Register read is done here. Okay. Now here in this stage, for this instruction, which registers will be read? Tell me here at this stage. Which registers are to be read? Tell me.
R2, R3.
R2, R3.
Yes, R2 and R3 registers will be read here. Okay, and then after reading this, we also found that the after decoding this instruction, we found that the add operation will be done. Okay, and register operand is read here. Okay, and then here in this stage, ALU operation of this will be done. Okay, so R2 plus R3 will be done here. Okay, and after doing this R2 plus R3, the result will be given to this register. Okay, all these are the intermediate registers. I have already told you that in between all the stages, registers are inserted to store the intermediate results. Okay, now after this ALU operation is done, the result is stored here in the register. Okay, this register, and then this instruction is not to store data in the memory. Okay, so in this instruction, is there any memory access? Can you tell me, students? In the first instruction, is there any memory access?
No, sir.
No. So in this
No, sir.
instruction, memory access is not done. So this data, this result is directly going to this register. You can see. So it is bypassed here. Okay, it is bypassed here. You can see one wire is coming here. You can see this is bypassed. So this result is coming to here, and from here it is going to be written here in this stage. In the WB stage, it is written back in the register R1. So R1, this R1 register is written here in this stage in the clock cycle number 5. Okay, in the clock cycle number 5, the R1 register is written. Okay, is that clear, students? In clock cycle number 5, R1 register, this R1 register is written here. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay,
Sir.
okay. So now come to the second instruction, this one, sub R4, R1 and R3. Okay, so here this sub operation, this sub instructions fetch operation is done at which clock cycle? Clock cycle number 2. Okay, clock cycle number 2, fetch operation is done for this instruction, and then in clock cycle number 3, in this instruction is decoded, and the register read operation is done here. Okay, register read operation is done here in this clock cycle number 3. Okay, now tell me, in this instruction, okay, in the second instruction, which instructions are the source register, sorry, which operands are the source, which registers are the source register, source operand, and which is the destination register? Tell me, in this instruction, which registers are the source operand, and which register is the destination operand? Tell me, students, in this instruction.
R1 and R3 is a source.
Yes, R1 and R3 are the source,
R1 and
and
R3 is source.
R4 is the destination register. Okay,
R4 is destination.
R4 is the destination register. Now tell me, in this stage here, in clock cycle number 3, after decoding, this is decoded, that's fine. Now which register will be read here? Tell me.
R1, R3.
R1, R3 will be read here in the clock cycle number 3. Okay, now tell me, this R1, is this R1 ready now? You see, R1, this R1 is generated here. This previous instruction is actually adding these two values and writing on the R1. Okay, and this R1 is required by this instruction. Okay, now tell me, is this R1 ready now here in
No,
clock
sir.
cycle number 3? No. So this is not available now. If it tries to read this R1 value, it will read the absurd value. It will read the wrong value, garbage value. Okay. So this is here at this clock cycle number 3, data hazard occurs. Data hazard on this register R1, because this instruction want to read this R1, and this R1 is generated by this previous instruction, but this previous instruction has not generated this or has not written this R1 at this clock cycle number 3. So at which clock cycle this R1 is ready? Tell me. After the completion of which clock cycle this R1 is ready? Tell me.
5.
After the completion of clock cycle number 5, this R1 register
5.
is it will be ready. But here this instruction requires at clock cycle number 3, so it is not available. So here this is known as data hazard. You can see one arrow mark is there. So this is required here, but that's not available here. Okay, you can see one arrow mark. Okay, so this is data hazard here on the register R1. Okay, similarly you come to this instruction, and R6, R1 and R7. So here this R1 and R7 are the source registers and R6 is the destination register, and here this instruction fetch operation is done here in the clock cycle number 3, and this instruction decode operation is done in the clock cycle number 4. Okay, and here along with the decode operation, register read operation will also be done, and register here source registers are this one R1 and R7, and this R1 is still not ready here. This R1 is generated here. You see, after the completion of this 5th number clock cycle, this is ready, but here it is not ready. And here also R1, the data hazard occurs on the register R1. Okay, is that clear? Here also data hazard occurs. Similarly, come to the next instruction here, or R8, R1, R9. So here the source registers are R1 and R9, and destination operand is R8. Okay, I can see this instruction fetch done here in the clock cycle number 4, and ID is done here in clock cycle number 5, and here it requires to read this R1 and R9, but R1 is not complete here. R1 will be completed when? After the completion of this clock cycle number 5. Okay, but here now we are in clock cycle number 5. After completion of clock cycle number 5, R1 is ready, but here it is not ready, so here also data hazard occurs. Okay, then come to the next instruction, XOR R10, R1, R11, and here the source operands are R1 and R11, and destination operand is R10. Now tell me, here this instruction IF operation is done here in the clock cycle number 5, and ID is done in the clock cycle number 6. Now tell me, is there any problem in this case for this instruction? Is there any data hazard in this instruction? Tell me. यहाँ पे डेटा hazard होगा क्या इस इंस्ट्रक्शन के लिए R1 में?
No, sir.
No, because here because see this instruction ID is done in the clock cycle number 6. Okay, and in ID the register read operation will be done, so R1 will be read here, so it will require R1 and R11. So there is no problem with R11. Problem was only with the R1 register, and R1 register is ready now because R1 is written in the clock cycle number 5. Now it is ready, so it can read from here. It can read now. Okay, so there is no problem in this instruction, but the problem is with these 3 instructions. Okay, so there is data hazard in these 3 instructions on the register R1. Okay, so this is your data hazard. Okay, so this data hazard occurs because of the data dependency. Okay, the current instruction depends on the prior instruction. Okay, for some data or for some result, but the prior instruction is still in the pipelining, that has not completed its execution. Okay, so this is data hazard. Is that clear? Okay, if you have any doubt, you can ask some question, otherwise I am moving to the next slide. Any doubt, students? Okay, since there is no doubt, I'm moving to the next slide. Okay. So this data hazard is again divided into three types. So there are three types of data hazards. First one is your read after write hazard, that is raw in short. Second one is write after read hazard, that is war hazard. Okay, and third one is write after write hazard, that is war hazard. Okay, so let us discuss these three types of data hazards. So first one is read after write hazard. Okay, that is raw. So here, suppose we have two instructions, instruction I and instruction J. And instruction I is here you can see add R1, R2 and R3. And here meaning of this instruction is R2 and R3 will be added, and the result will be written in the register R1. Okay. And here in the second instruction, the instruction J, you can see the instruction is sub R4, R1, R3, and meaning of this instruction is R1 and R3 will be added and result will be stored in the register R4. Okay. Now in the first instruction, in the instruction I, this register R1 is written. Write operation is done in the register R1. Okay, I told you that I am using this convention, the left hand side register I am using as the destination, and these two are the source registers. So in the ith instruction you can see R1 is the destination register, so R1 is written here. And in the second instruction you can see R1 is the source operand. Okay, R1 is read here. Read operation is done on the R1 register. Okay, now according to the sequence of this instruction, the instruction J, second instruction, that is instruction J, should read the register R1 after instruction I writes the register R1. Okay, I repeat, according to the sequence of this instruction, instruction J should write, instruction J should read the register R1 after instruction I after instruction I write the register R1. Okay, this should happen. Is that clear? According to the sequence, instruction J should read the register R1 after instruction I writes the register R1. Okay, but in case if instruction J tries to read register R1, okay, to read the operand this R1 before instruction I writes it, then this is known as read after write hazard, that is raw hazard. Okay, actually this should happen, means this should be done after this. If this is done before this, then this is known as raw hazard. Okay, that's what you can see here. Instruction J, if instruction J tries to read operand before instruction I writes it, then this is known as read after write. Okay, so remember this way. Read after write hazard means read after write should be done. Okay, read after write should be done, but if it is not happening, if read before write is happening, then this is known as the read after write hazard, raw hazard. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is known as by the compiler writers, this is known as the dependence. Okay, so this is because of the true data dependency. Okay, this raw hazard is also known as true data dependence or dependence. Okay, the next hazard is, see, all these are different types of data hazard. Okay, we are in data hazard now. Okay, so the first data hazard was raw hazard, read after write, and the second one is write after read, that is war hazard. Okay, and here instruction J should write after instruction I reads R1. Okay, here in this case, according to the sequence of instructions, instruction J should write R1. Okay, after instruction I reads the R1. But if instruction J tries to write R1 before instruction I reads R1, then this is known as write after read or war hazard. Okay, so is that clear? Any doubt? Students, ये समझ में आया कि नहीं बताओ?
Yes.
Okay. So this is also known as anti-dependence by the compiler writers. Okay, जो compiler लिखते हैं उसको anti-dependence भी बोलते हैं. ठीक है? Okay. I have a question for you. Can this write after read hazard, okay, possible in a DLX 5-stage pipelining? So DLX is a one kind of a risk processor that uses a 5-stage pipeline. Okay, so tell me, can it happen in DLX 5-stage pipelining? Can this write after read hazard happen in DLX 5-stage pipelining? In the 5-stage pipelining, can it occur? Tell me. Question for you. Can you answer this?
Sir, no.
Can you tell the reason? Yes, your answer is correct. Tell the reason.
Because the read operation is done first.
Yes. Yes. And read operations, if you apply the clock cycles, okay, the read operation, if you consider here, this is starting in the clock cycle number 1, then read operation will be done at which clock cycle? Suppose it starts at the clock cycle number 1, this I instruction. Then read operation will be done at which clock cycle number? This one.
1.
Huh? Register read operation.
2, sir.
2.
Yes. In the clock cycle number 2, this register R1 will be read. Okay. Now tell me, this write operation for this instruction J will be done in which clock cycle? Tell me.
5.
Yes. So this is done in the clock cycle number 5. So there is no problem at all, because R1 is read here in the clock cycle number 2, and this return is done in the clock cycle number 5. So no issue. Okay. So this is the answer. Can't happen in DLX 5-stage pipelining because all instructions take 5 stages, and reads are always in the stage 2 and writes are always in the stage 5. Okay. Good. Okay. So now I'm moving to the next hazard, next type of data hazard, that is write after write hazard, that is war hazard. Okay. So here both the instructions are writing. The first instruction also writing in the register R1, and second instruction also writing the register R1. Okay. So here in this case, the instruction instruction J should write R1 after instruction I writes R1. This should happen. I repeat, in this case, instruction J should write the register R1 after instruction I writes it. Okay, but if instruction J tries to write the register R1 before instruction I writes it, then this is known as write after write hazard or war hazard. Okay, you can see it is written, if instruction J writes operand before instruction I writes it, then this is known as write after write hazard or war hazard. Okay, and this is also known as output dependence. By the compiler writers, it is known as output dependence, because you see here dependency is in the output. Okay, because written data is written, that's why output. Okay, so output dependent, this is known as output dependent. So remember that write after write hazard is known as output dependence. Okay, and the previous one, this one, write after read, that is war is known as anti dependence, and this one, read after write, is known as dependence only, or true dependence also it is known as. Okay. Okay, now I have a question for you. Can it happen in DLX 5-stage pipelining? Can war hazard happen in 5-stage pipelining? Answer me. Answer to this question. Can this happen in 5-stage pipelining? Can you answer this or not?
No, sir.
Yes. Tell me the answer. Why?
So the write operation of the first instruction is done at the last, and if we do the pipelining, then after one stage it will do the
Yes,
write
yes,
operation.
good. Yes, good, good. So this is the answer. Can't happen in DLX 5-stage pipelining because all instructions take 5 stages and writes are always in the stage 5. Okay, so this cannot happen. Okay, so if this write is done in the clock cycle number 5, then this write will be done in the clock cycle number 6. Okay, so there is no problem. Okay. Then the last hazard is your control hazard. Okay, and this is uh, control hazard is caused in the branch instructions. Okay, and this control hazard is more harmful than the other two hazards, that is your data hazard and structural hazard. Okay, and this happens in the branch instructions, and this is caused by the delay between the fetching of the next instruction and the branch decision. Okay, see, in case of branch instructions, we don't know whether the branch will be taken or not taken till the EX stage is completed. Yes or no? For any instruction, whether the instruction will take the branch or not, at which stage we'll get to know that? We'll get to know that at the EX stage. Okay, in the EX stage, all the arithmetic and logical operation is done. Yes, yes or no? Students?
Yes, sir.
See, in the IF stage, instruction is fetched. In the ID stage, instruction is decoded and register is read. Then in the EX stage, ALU operation is done. ALU means arithmetic operation and logical operation. Okay. So whether the branch will be taken or not taken, it depends on some condition. So there is some conditional checking is done. So at which stage that is done? That is done in the EX stage. This is logical operation is done. Okay. So whether the condition is satisfied or not, that is checked in the EX stage. Okay. So unless the EX stage is completed, you cannot know whether the branch will be taken or not taken. Okay. But the problem is that in pipelining, at each clock cycle, a new instruction is initiated. A new instruction is fetched. Okay. So that happens. So whether the next instruction will be fetched or the branch code, the branch target the branch instruction will be executed. What to do, we don't know. You can see when the branch is executed, it may or may not change the program counter value. If you are changing the program counter value, means you're actually adding 4 with the program counter value to point to the next instruction. Okay, that is sequential. If you are moving to the next instruction, and if you are not moving to the next instruction, that means if you are using the branch instruction, you are using, you are executing the loop instruction. You consider a for loop, suppose. Okay, for loop or while loop, any loop you consider. So while a condition is true, then you are executing, say, suppose printf hello or printf I, whatever you are printing. When the condition is true, in case of a while loop or for loop, if the condition is true, then you are printing something. Okay, say you are printing your printf hello you are doing, if the condition is true. Okay, say you are doing this way: for I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. Okay, printf hello, you are doing this, you have written this in the for loop. Okay, so you are checking the value of I. If the value of I is less than 10, then you are printing hello. You're printing hello means what? You are calling the printf function. Remember, printf is a predefined function, and predefined function printf, its code is present in the library C library. It is present in the different memory location. Okay, so the control has to go to that memory location. That is branch target. Okay, you have written a program, and you are writing the for loop, and then after that you are writing some other statements. So whether this for loop will be executed or the control will go to the next instruction, that depends on the condition of the for loop. Okay, if the condition is true, then you are calling the printf function. If the condition is false, then you are going to the next instruction. Okay, so whether the branch will be taken or branch will not be taken, this depends on the condition. Okay, but the problem here is the condition, I mean, whether the branch will be taken or not taken, you get to know that at this stage. Okay, when this ALU stage is completed, after that you can only know that whether the branch will be taken or not. ALU, arithmetic and logical operation, is done here. So the branch condition is checked here. That is conditional, I mean, logical operation and conditional operation is checking all this. Checking is done here in the ALU. Okay. So unless this is completed, you cannot know that whether the branch will be taken or not. Okay. Now you see here in this example, these are the instructions, and these are the addresses, byte addresses or addresses of this instruction in the memory. Okay. The first instruction is BEQ, branch equal. That means if the R1 value is equals to R3 value, R1 and R3 registers, if R1 and R3 are equal, then go to this 36 address. And you see 36 address location is here. So what's the instruction at this address? This is the instruction. Okay. That means if this condition is satisfied, that means if R1 is equals to R3, then go to this instruction. You execute this instruction. Don't execute these instructions. Okay. And if this condition is not satisfied, that means if R1 is not equals to R3, then don't go here. You just execute this one, then this one, then this one. Okay. So this is the case. So here in this example, you see in the first clock cycle, suppose this is the first clock cycle, IF is done for this instruction. Okay. Then in the second clock cycle, ID of this instruction is done, and this instruction is initiated because I told you that in pipelining, at each clock cycle a new instruction is fetched. So this is fetched. The new instruction has to be initiated. It has to be fetched. Okay. So this is fetched. You see, this is fetched here. Then clock cycle number 3, EX of this is done, and this is fetched here. Okay. And suppose the this instruction in this instruction in the ALU stage, we got to know that the branch is taken. Okay, the branch is taken. That means the R1 and R3 value is equal. Okay, that means the branch will be taken. Now tell me at which stage the branch target address is calculated. Can you tell me in which stage of the pipelining branch target address is calculated? Can you tell me? Can anyone tell me? The branch target address is calculated or updated in the MEM stage. Remember, in the MEM stage, if the instruction is a branch, see what happens in the MEM stage. Memory is accessed if the instruction is a load store instruction, and if the instruction is a branch instruction, then branch target address is updated in the MEM stage. Remember. So here, so this instruction is a branch instruction. Okay, and its branch target address is updated here in the MEM stage. This is the MEM stage. Okay. So after this, after the completion of this stage only, you get the branch target address. Okay. And till that time period, already these 3 instructions are in the pipeline. They are fetched and they are in some stages of the pipeline. You see, this instruction is doing this ALU up to this. Okay. And these instructions, two stages are done here, and this instructions IF is done here. Okay, but here we get to know that this instruction, the condition is satisfied. That means after this instruction should be executed, not these 3. If this condition is satisfied, then after this instruction should be executed. But we have initiated these instructions in the pipelining, so which is wrong, which is not correct, isn't it? So what to do? Tell me what to do. Students, tell me what to do. Are you getting the problem or not?
Yes, sir.
So what to do now? Tell me. हमें पता चला यहाँ पर के ब्रांच लेना है और ब्रांच का टारगेट यहाँ पर अपडेट किए, और तब तक तो हम इसको ये फेच होके ये इतना सारा हो चुका है यहाँ पर पाइपलाइन में, और खाली भी तो नहीं छोड़ सकते ना, इसको ऐसे कर रहे हैं. बाई चांस अगर मान लो कि कंडीशन फॉल्स होता तो ये तो सही होता ना, है कि नहीं? ट्रू है इसलिए हमें क्या करना है, इनको नहीं लेना था, इसको लेना था, तो ये तो प्रॉब्लम है, इसको बोलते हैं तुम्हारा कंट्रोल hazard. This is known as control hazard. Okay, so this control hazard is caused by the delay between the fetching of the instructions and the decisions about changes in the control flow of the branches and jumps. Okay, so this is known as control hazard. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with this, pipelining is complete. Okay, and your